Welcome to part 2 of adding activities. And last time we left off with the ability to click an item on the list view and open a new activity displaying the item's name in the edit text of that activity. Now we're going to set it so if we press save, the value inside of the edit text will overwrite the value in the list. And the first thing we need to do to set that up is add an on-click listener to the button. Cool, so now we need to extract the text value inside of the edit text. And then we need to return it to the previous activity. And you do that with the setResult method. And you can see here it takes a result code and an intent. So let's look into that a little bit. You can see the result code has to be, or should be, result cancelled or result OK. And the intent is going to do something similar to what the intent here did, which is just extracting the string value out of it. So let's use the same intent that started this activity to return the new value to the main activity. And we'll just use the same putExtra method with the same key and the new value. And now we can set result with activity.resultOK and the new intent. Alright, and so this will send the value back to the main activity, but we also want to close the detail activity, and we do that with the finish method. So at this point the activity will close off and you'll return to the main activity. And so the main activity has to capture that intent, and you do that with the onActivityResult method. And from here we'll see there are 3 parameters. We know result code, we know data. We don't know request code yet. So request code is actually sent when you start activity, and that'll be sent with a different method called startActivityForResult, and it needs an integer, and that integer will be unique for the detail activity. You won't really see the value of this unless you have multiple activities that could open from main activity, and those activities can send back results to main activity. And that's because the request code is going to keep track of the activity that was opened. So the detail activity will have a unique request code that's used, and that's just going to be some unique integer that we send like that. And if we had a third or fourth activity, they would have different integer values used here when we start activity for result. And then on activity result, we can check if that request code is something we expect, and then handle it for that particular scenario. So in detail activity, we expect a detail name in the intent, and we only expect result OK for the result code. So we'll get the string new value out of the intent, using the same key that we stored it with. And now we need to do two things now. First, we need to make sure list items is a field that can be referenced from this method. We also need to figure out how we can determine the position inside of list items that the value was modified from when we return back on activity result. And I think the easiest way to do that is to first take list items and set it as a field, then create another constant, another static final string for detail position. Just make sure it's a different value than detail name. And at listview.setOnItemClickListener, where we put the extra for detail name, we're going to add another extra for detail position. And we'll put the position value in there. So now when detail activity starts, the intent at this point will have that position value, and the same intent will be returned to main activity over here, and we know that will have that position inside of it. And this time we use data.getIntExtra, and the difference here is we use detail position, but we also need to define a default value because an integer can't be null. So we'll use -1. Now in production, you would check that data is not null, you would check that the new value is not null, and you would check that the position is not -1 before moving forward from here. But this is just an example app, so we will assume those values are there for us. And we'll do list items dot set position to new value. Alright, and now we just need to notify the adapter. And again, the adapter needs to become a field of the class, just like that. And we can erase this part here. We can't initialize the adapter up here because context won't be established yet until the lifecycle begins, which is at onCreate. So if you ran this up here, when you use this for context, it would actually be null. Alright, so let's do adapter.notify data's exchanged. Alright, and we can run this. So let's change this to, let's add name, and I'll rename this to Droid. And we see that was modified exactly as we expected. So if I edit this, it's perfect. So now, in the next video, we're gonna get the app to save state. And what I mean by that is, if we close the app, and then reopen it, we lose the values in our list. So we're gonna figure out a way to get those values to persist after the app is shut off. And if you have any questions, just write me a comment below.